Hi, my love. Welcome to the Gemma Hanley podcast. My name is Gemma. I'm your host. This is the space where I have honest conversations about overcoming anxiety and overwhelm so that you can calm your nervous system and feel really confident and happy and calm from within yourself. Along the way, I share my own stories of holistically healing 23 years of anxiety and depression myself. And so if you're a woman seeking answers to perfectionism, people-pleasing, burnout, resistance, you may love, you're in the right place. Let's do it. Let's begin. And before we begin, I want to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which I am recording from, which is the Gubbi Gubbi tribe. And I want to extend that acknowledgement to their elders, past, present, and emerging, as well as anybody of Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander heritage watching this replay. Hey, my beautiful love. Welcome back to the Gemma Hanley podcast, lovingly known as the Poddy. Today is part one of a two-part series that I'm bringing to the podcast. They're going to be more of a workshop feel, meaning I'm going to guide you through some questions, some exercises, and also through a connection practice to your subconscious. And you can do with that what you please. You will definitely get a lot from it, purely from just listening and maybe sitting in contemplation or just casually becoming curious. That could help some information to pop to the surface for you. And if you're in a position where you are feeling like next year, 2025, you want to be super intentional about where your time, your energy, your love, your attention goes, because there are some changes and some transformations that you really want to see happen. And there's particular things in your life that you want to bring into your reality and have popping up. Then you might like to sit down and do this with pen and paper and hit pause when you need to so that you can do it in real time if that feels like great accountability for you and almost like I'm here guiding you through it one-on-one. That's totally available too. And I'm recording this. The plan is that I'm recording this for YouTube as well as just the audio. So if you want to even sit down and make a day of it, maybe make yourself a cup of your favorite tea or smoothie or drink, maybe burn some incense, light a candle, create a space, make a ritual out of your goal and vision setting practice to either, depends on when you're using this, like close out 2024, or you might be doing it in the new year in 2025 as well. Part one today, there's three steps that I'm going to move you through. And part one today is really about digging for the gold from the year that has been. There is no better source of information as to why we are where we are at right now than the behaviors, the choices, the results we have or have not done or gotten in recent times. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be posing lots of questions that help you check in both at a logical, intellectual analysis level, yes, but also at a subconscious level of what's gone really well. And maybe I haven't taken the time to capture that data and information, which, by the way, might be things that you're not even aware of, as probably unaware of as you're listening to this portion of the episode right now. But also, how can I gain more clarity on what caused certain goals to not eventuate? What caused the same old patterns to keep showing up? Because if we don't know the answer to that question, what caused this? Probably not going to be able to create a different experience for ourselves purely because a calendar year is ticking over. That would be amazing if it was that simple of like, wow, like fresh calendar year, blank canvas, let's go. All of a sudden, I am capable of all of the things that I've been trying to produce for the last year, some of us for longer than that, pouring my heart and soul into, but haven't happened yet. there's probably more that's required there. But you might be surprised at how easy it is to collect this data that really enables us to change things up and achieve goals that perhaps feel really far away for you right now. The reason that can feel so big and so hard and so far away at times is purely because we don't have that answer of what is causing this to be so hard, what is causing this to feel so far away, and what is it that I need to implement, or what's the solution that's going to help me overcome that hurdle or overcome that block or problem or pain point in my life that currently stands between me where I am now and having the goal that I want. So that's what we're going to move through. I always do this two-part series at the end of every year, and it's slightly different every year because I'm different every year. And you're definitely getting a transmission from me of what feels exciting, what feels appropriate, what feels valuable, what feels enlivening based on today. So you'll feel maybe some similarities if you've done this with me in prior years, but I've definitely added some new things into the mix as well. So let's get into it. There's 3 parts we're going to move through. And the first part is doing a quick review of the goals that we set for this year. So if you didn't set goals for 2024, that is totally fine. Maybe you can just have a listen to this part. You can skip past this part. If you did set goals for 2024, I'm going to invite you to hit pause, pull them out. You might be like me. I had to do a bit of a search in the notes section of my phone. It's one of the reasons why I love making my goals digital in some way, because I can just search them a year later. Or if you didn't record goals in a written form, but you had intentions for this year, you were really clear on what you wanted to bring to life, maybe just create a quick list of those things as well, regardless of where you're at with them. And so now that you've got your goals there with you, because you've hit pause and you've gone and gotten them, or you've hit pause and you've taken the time to just do a quick brain dump of what they were, I want you to move through 3 steps. The first is I want you to go through that list and I want you to check, what have I actualized? Meaning, what have I brought into reality? I've achieved it. There is a tick beside that, right? This is beautiful for self-acknowledgement and for self-celebration as well. Sometimes we can be moving through life so fast, or always feeling like no matter what we've achieved or no matter what we've done, it's not enough. And we're just moving on to the next thing really quickly. And so this practice of actually taking the time to look at, okay, what from my goals has actually arrived, it's here, is really powerful. So you can put a tick beside that. And before I sat down to record this, I actually, as I said, I pulled up the notes of my own goals, and I do this exercise. And so one of the examples that I want to share with you for 2 reasons, one, because it's achieved, but 2, for maybe part of the reason why it's achieved, is my intimate relationship that I actualized this year. That had been something that had been on my goals for a long time, years and years and years. And it is now here in the reality. I have met that person. And building and creating a relationship that is values aligned and all of the things that I wanted. Only something was different in terms of how I wrote that down as a goal. And I hadn't even remembered that this was the case until I just sat down and looked at the goals that I set. In prior years, I had been really specific and really clear on the relationship I wanted to call in and when I wanted to call it in by, but more the specifics of, it would sound something like, I am creating a life with values aligned partner, including, and I would have listed the top values, and then I would have listed what it felt like in my body, and I might have listed, some specific tangible points of evidence that would be present and have me know that that was was the aligned partner for me. And at the start of last year, I remember, no, sorry, it's this year. It's the start of this year. We haven't finished the year yet. The start of this year, when I set this goal, I was just in a place in my life where I was just so thrilled and so full and so joyful and grateful for everything that was in my life. And I wasn't trying to make myself feel that way. I genuinely felt that way. And the way that I worded this relationship goal this year was really short, really simple. And it was, I have my heart open and I trust in the co-creation, God, and the soul contract of me meeting this person. It was as simple as that. And what I can say is one of the reasons I was feeling so fulfilled and so thrilled and just joyful about my life is I was trusting that everything that was in my life was there for me. It was happening for me. And that I didn't have to try so hard. And that when things weren't happening how I wanted them to, that wasn't because they were wrong. I was trusting more than ever, right? This wasn't new for me, but I was probably trusting more than ever that hard things show up on our path to prepare us to be ready to receive rewards out the other side, right? To upskill us, to help us become that energetic vibrational match for what it is that we want to call in, to develop, to evolve, to grow, to heal. And so I had arrived at this place where I truly, and I was literally saying, if I don't meet this man for another 2 years, I am cool with that. I'd like it to be in the next 2 years though. But, for me at that point in time, it was very freeing and letting go of all rigidity or controlling or gripping for me to say 2 years, because I had wanted it as soon as possible, right? But I trusted it was already done. I trusted that everything was working out exactly how it was meant to, because I knew I was showing up in an embodied way. I knew I was playing my role, and there was nothing more I could do beyond that. And it wasn't just up to me, it was up to God, universe, consciousness, source, for this to arrive for me at the time that was right for me. And one of the things that felt very true for me, in the years leading up to meeting my partner, is that it was almost like God wanted this space clear for me to fully show up and fully devote in my contribution, and in my service to women, in helping them to heal and grow and do their inner work. And that I might have let that slide or become less of a priority if this other focus of relationship, parenting, building a life in a family unit had have been available sooner. These are the things we don't factually know, but we can have, an inner feeling toward at times. And so I just wanted to highlight the difference in that, because it was one of those, when I opened my goals, it was one of those moments where I felt, that was different, wasn't it? And it felt very true and aligned and what actually happened and took place. I opened my heart and I trusted that it was a co-creation. It wasn't just up to me. I needed to play my role, and then I needed to surrender and let go and allow the process and trust the process to unfold. So that can be a fun reason for doing this little activity too. So first of all, have a read through the list, tick to anything that is actualized. Might prompt a reflection like the one I just shared with you. Next thing I want you to do is go through the list for those remaining items, and I want you to put a circle around anything that is in motion. It's a work in progress, so it's not complete yet. However, it's underway, right? or anything that is still a priority. So you want to bring it with you into next year. I want you to circle that. Yeah. So an example for me, travel. And I shared in my first vlog on YouTube because I've started vlogging behind the scenes of my life just to share more of my values and who I am and how I show up in the world and how I make big decisions and how I move through challenges and whatnot. And there's many more of those coming, by the way. My team, I need to hand them over. I've got a backlog. So that could be, I'm gonna shoot to release hopefully those over the Christmas New Year break, which could be some fun viewing. I love watching YouTube. So in my first vlog, one of the things that I shared with you was that for this year, 2024, something that was on my goals list was travel overseas 2 times as a minimum. And then I think I had like ideally or maybe 3. In reality, I have not been overseas, not even once this year. And so that is something that I have a circle around. And there's already 1 trip booked and a second in planning for next year. So that is what is happening. Something else I shared about that, and there's a question. I might wait and share it later in actually. There's another example, but yeah, there's a question that links to what caused travel to not be a priority for me this year. So circle anything that is in motion, it's underway, or that you want to bring with you. And then the last step here on number 3 is I want you to have a look at what's remaining on the list. And if it's remaining there, it's because it hasn't been achieved and it's no longer enough of a priority. And so I want you to allow yourself to put a line through that, because sometimes something that is no longer a priority will have once been everything we wanted, everything we hoped for. And I personally know that there is so much intelligence in allowing ourselves to move on from dreams or goals that are no longer relevant, rather than holding ourselves captive in a perspective or in a story that used to be true for us but isn't anymore. Yeah. And so I want you to really, as almost an energetic practice as well, is put the line directly through things that maybe once were a priority, maybe once would have had you feeling understood and celebrated by the people around you because they thought it was a great goal. But really own, this isn't for me anymore. This is not a priority. And if I continue to entertain it when I know in my heart, I know in my body, I know in my soul, this is not true for me, I'm actually going to be getting in my own way. Beautiful. So that was step 1. It was a quick little review of this year, or of 2024. Okay, we're going to move into step 2 and step 3. Before we do, each question I take you through for the remainder of this episode is specific to a key area of life. I teach and coach on 6 different key areas of life. In a moment, I'm going to read those out to you so that you can, again, pause and write them down if you want to. I tend to find I always have a different vibe of how I want to approach my goals and vision. Some years, there will be a really leading 1 or 2 or 3 leading key areas of life where I just want to go all in on those. And it's so true and it's so real and clear in my body that feels so good for me. Other years, I'm really keen to touch all 6 key areas and ensure that I'm giving a really beautiful holistic spread of my time, energy, love, and attention, right? And I'm not pigeonholing myself, for example, like only focusing on my health or only focusing on business, and then forgetting to prioritize things like play and adventure and fun and connection. Right? Which is probably why we want health and a thriving business. Part of the reason why we want health and a thriving business is so that we can do more of those things. And so if we suppress those desires and deplete ourselves of accessing that because we're gone so hard on these other things, even if we get the goals in health and even if we get the goals in business, they might not feel so fulfilling because you'll probably be burnt out, or you probably won't have people around you who have come on the journey that you get to share it with them. You probably won't have created moments throughout the year, whether it's a long weekend or even a day trip or whatnot, to deeply sink into what you are creating along the way. It is not about the end goal, right? If you don't know how to enjoy it and celebrate it and embrace it along the way, you definitely won't feel the full force and the full availability of joy and elation and excitement and gratitude and pride when you get to the end goal because you won't have practiced that skill set. Okay. So you can pick and choose. Sometimes it might feel right to just pick one key area or two or three, or you might like to pick all six. Typically, particularly in the earlier stages of our inner work, it will often be a crisis or uncomfortable emotions or pain points in our life that have us prioritizing one of these six things. And that's cool too. Pain shows up when we haven't been listening. Yeah, pain shows up when a redirection has become essential and necessary. So it is very beautiful to listen to that and create a plan around it as well. So just a little sip of water, and I'm going to read out these six key areas of life for you. So number one is relationships, and this includes the relationship with yourself as well. Yeah. Been here a while, you'll hear me bang on about dating yourself. And a short little phrase that I love and that I used so much when I was really depressed and extremely anxious and very poor at setting boundaries, and used people pleasing and procrastination and perfectionism and burnout to regulate my nervous system. And when I say burnout, it's because I needed to be doing to feel productive and to feel distracted and to be able to avoid the discomfort and stress that was in my nervous system. So a little phrase that I used to use that I found really helpful, and I wouldn't necessarily, in fact, I think I very rarely, if ever, said it to other people, but I got to say to myself was when I wanted to please others or prioritize the needs of others or keep the peace instead of naming what I needed or prioritizing the relationship with myself, was this: I love you, but I love myself more. So helpful when I needed to say no to something or put an end to how somebody was treating me or how they were unable to show up in what felt like a really healthy, rewarding, uplifting, supportive, loving, productive way for me. Yeah. Or if the values alignment just wasn't close enough for the connection to feel harmonious, one of the things I would say to myself to give myself permission to say no or set the boundary was, I love you and I love myself more. Yeah. So key area one is relationships, including the relationship with yourself. Number two is health. Number three is career and business. Number four is money and wealth, finances. Number five is play. Yeah. things like adventure, spontaneity, fun. And this is not limited purely to holidays or big events or planned trips. This also includes what are you doing on a weekly basis to create a lifestyle that has moments of play and adventure and fun. Yeah. So play, what lights you up inside? What is something that you do for no purpose other than to have fun, to experience joy and pleasure, right? There's no purpose, there's no agenda, there's no box to be ticked. You do it just because it feels good. Yeah. And then number 6 is your soul's purpose. Yeah, so they're the 6 key areas of life. Hit pause, rewind if you need to, pop them down on a piece of paper if you're going to do all 6. Amazing. If you're going to do 1 or 2 or 3, just highlight which of those it is. And regardless, what I would love for you to do for the remainder of this episode is pick which of these key areas you want to start with first, because then all the questions I'm going to take you through next, in the next 2 parts of this, you can anchor in to that one key area of life. And like I said, if you want to do it in real time, just hit pause, or you can come back and re-listen to it all over again as well. So the second part of this workshop that I want to guide you through is self-celebration, self-acknowledgement. Yeah. Really meeting yourself with the excitement, the validation, the pride that you would your best friend or a family member that you just adore and love, someone who you really admire and you wish that they could see how amazing and phenomenal and talented and what a gift they are in this world. So often we don't remember to give this to ourselves. Yeah. Sometimes this is because our talents come so naturally that we don't even realize that we've just accomplished something phenomenal. Sometimes it's because we are just chasing the next thing. We are not so practiced at being present, at being still, at being patient, at letting where we are at be enough. It's never good enough. There's always more to do, always running out of time, always somewhere to be next. Cool, but got to go here now. Yeah, cool, amazing, done. And it doesn't really count until this part is done as well. This is some of the narrative that can go on. And one thing that is not widely known is that our subconscious, which automates more than 95% of our behaviors, our choices, yeah, and therefore our results, is not interested in playing ball and getting on board if you're not acknowledging yourself along the way. Yeah. Because you're worthy of that. Our subconscious holds so much intelligence. It holds the wisdom of our body, our intuition. It's the felt sensation of God, universe, consciousness. And so if we are always just go, 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 do, next, 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 and we are not worshiping and praising and celebrating how phenomenal we already are in the now moment and the next moment and the next moment, that's going to start to jam up what we might call creativity, flow, intuition, ease, excitement, motivation, enthusiasm, inspiration. right? All of that's going to slow down because it is so important for you to realize, oh, one, gratitude, but oh, two, I haven't shown myself acknowledgement. I haven't validated myself. I haven't gotten really excited for who I am and who I have become already. I'm just chasing what is next. And this is one of the most healing things that we can do, to let go of people pleasing and perfectionism and burnout and fatigue and a whole host of chronic symptoms. Yeah. Because all of those things, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the burnout, is a product of us seeking outside of ourselves. And so when we take the time to give to ourselves what it is we're trying to chase outside of ourselves from other people, we don't need to chase outside of ourselves from other people anymore. Yeah. So here's some questions. And I invite you in the next stage, I'm going to guide you through a little subconscious experience. But I invite you, even in this stage, to connect with your heart, connect with your inner knowing when you ask these questions. Don't just do it from an intellectual perspective. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, when you ask yourself this question, just write down what comes up. Don't judge it. Don't say, oh, it was pretty embarrassing that I want to celebrate myself for that thing. Right. Or, oh, I don't, no, like, sure, I did that part, but I could have done it better and I didn't do this and it took me this long. So it doesn't really feel worthy of celebration. Watch for this coming up. Yeah. Open your heart. Write down what comes up to these questions. The first one is, what went well? What went well? So remember, let's say you're doing it in the context of relationships, including the relationship with yourself as your first key area. You're asking in that context. So when it comes to relationships, including the relationship with myself, what went well? So I've got an example here that I wanted to share with you for how, like, maybe weird and just quirky, but also this would have been something that was easy for me to maybe not acknowledge and not notice if I hadn't have sat down and done this. So last year, I live on the Sunshine Coast. It's extremely humid in summer. We get very high 30 degrees Celsius weather, just as the norm. And my house would get really hot. It's uninterrupted west facing sun until sunset. And after last summer, I came to the conclusion, the truth, that I either needed to move, I either needed to get air conditioning, I needed to go back to Melbourne, where I'm from, for a longer period over the summer break just to get some relief. It's probably only 3.5 months where it's really, really, like, so hot, where you feel like you just scorched within less than 10 minutes of being outside. So maybe I could have gone back to Melbourne, where it's far cooler, for a month or something over summer. Or I thought to myself, okay, maybe I need to go overseas for a month. That can be when I do some travel. And I was standing in my bathroom the other night and I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't moved, but I have gotten air conditioning. I am going back to Melbourne and I'm also going overseas in this period. And so sometimes when we're living out something that was once a goal and something that was going to feel so, insert here, so relieving, so, oh, amazing, so transformational, so extremely the opposite to where we are now. Sometimes by the time we arrive there, it just feels like a lot of the time for me now when I achieve my goals, it just feels normal. It just feels, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, normal. There's no extreme high, uh, because I also don't have the extreme lows when things aren't going to plan or are feeling harder than I thought they would, right? That's what our inner work does. That's what happens when we heal our inner child and learn how to regulate our nervous system. So now, as an adult, we're only responding to the facts of our current day reality and not having the intensity and the weight of childhood trauma or childhood unresolved events, that stress response lumped on top of the facts of our current day adult reality. And so it would have been really easy for me to miss this because it just felt like an of course moment. So normal. I said that's what I wanted to create, and I created it. However, when I took the time to notice that, I actually even said out loud to myself, because you can play with this stuff when you're celebrating yourself. And I said to myself, oh, I'll just have all three, thanks. Because the goal, the unspoken goal that wasn't written down, was aircon, travel home, or travel overseas. And all three are happening, which is so magic, wildly fulfilling. I am, yeah, so much joy, so much gratitude for having taken responsibility to create that for myself and arrive here, and could have easily gone unnoticed. So, what went well? It doesn't have to be something as huge as attracting in the partner that you have desired for years and years and years. It can also be that there is more pleasure, or there is more comfort, or there is more adventure in a small or big way in your life as well. Uh, Number two, what did I forget to celebrate? So this could be identified from your prior answer of what went well. You might identify things and you realize, oh, I haven't actually fully felt in my body how proud of myself I am for that. I haven't put on my favorite song and danced in celebration of that. I haven't picked up my phone and sent a voice message to someone who loves and celebrates the fuck out of me as well and shared with them, oh my gosh, I just realized this year something that I created and something that I followed through on, something that I achieved was this. And I hadn't even noticed. And so I just wanted to share this here in this space and bring you in on the celebration. Yeah, my girlfriends and I do that most weeks, with something when we've got something to celebrate. For me, one of the things that I realized, because it was such a ongoing little process, it wasn't some big impact end result, was investing. I'd forgotten to celebrate myself for investing when actually this time last year, I was doing so much research and so much reading and asking people that I knew that had expertise in this area different questions, and intentionally had an account set up purely for this. And then over the year, I've just on a regular basis drip fed money in to investing. So that was something I hadn't realized that I could celebrate myself for. The third question here is, when did I respond to difficulty by stepping into hard and unknown things? I love this question because society will not celebrate you for this and will not remind you that you should celebrate yourself for this too, right? When we step out of our comfort zone and we choose to grow and we choose to be different and we choose to own our confidence and own our worth and step into our power, that can actually create discomfort for other people, right? Whether they're playing devil's advocate and they're projecting their fear onto you and calling it love. What if this happens? Have you thought about that? Or I just want you to be sure, right? Or whether you become unrelatable to them. Because if they were to continue to connect with you as much as they had, they're going to be hearing about your success, or they're going to be hearing about you taking ownership and responsibility for the parts of your life that you do not like and that you want to change. And whether they want it to or not, that's probably going to create some introspection for them and bring up questions that are uncomfortable for them to explore, right? So, when did I respond to difficulty? By stepping into hard and unknown things. When did I use my voice when it was really hard? Where did I set a boundary or have hard conversations? One of these examples for me this year was in the second half of this year, I made a really hard decision to pause my one-to-one private coaching. Yeah, which meant I completely closed down one of the revenue streams and income streams into my business. And it didn't make sense logically or intellectually. However, there was this knowing in my body that for at least the time being, that was such an important decision to be made. And one of the reasons for this is I was watching the results that the women were getting in my one-to-one intimate group coaching. Yeah, so private coaching means it's just me and another woman sitting on a call. There's no one else there. So it's a very, very comfortable environment for coaching. I'm not saying it's comfortable. I'm saying it's comfortable for coaching. Yeah. The only person that is there that could possibly judge them or misunderstand them or insert here is me. And they're paying me to not do that. Amazing results come out of that space, but it was undeniable that the results the women were getting in my one-to-one intimate group coaching space. So Reveal and Rise, it's capped at 30 women, but then those 30 women for the coaching calls every single week are split into two groups. And so at most, there is only 15 women on a call at any time. However, not every woman comes every week. So often it's even smaller and even more intimate than that. And part of a woman really like stepping into her power in that space is it's not just her and I. She is being lovingly witnessed by other women in the exact same position as her, being just as vulnerable, feeling just as uncomfortable, speaking their truth, asking for support, sharing probably the most intimate details often that she has ever shared in her entire life or spoken out loud. And the difference is one, she's bringing the courage and she's bringing her nervous system to that conversation where she might have a fear of rejection. She might have a fear of being humiliated or ridiculed in front of a group. She might have a fear of being seen as stupid or wrong or difficult or taking up too much space or taking up too much attention or being too much, being too sensitive. She might have a fear of showing emotion in front of other people. And now she's bringing this nervous system and the subconscious patterning that up until now has either factually or from a fear-based perspective told her, do not do this. You will not survive. You will die. That is what the survival stress response in our nervous system is saying in the most simplest form. The fight, flight, freeze form is saying, if you do not respond in a certain way, right, either get defensive, which is fight, just avoid the situation at all costs, get out of there, which is flight, avoid, freeze, which is procrastinate, don't do the thing, or don't speak the words. They get stuck in your chest or in your belly or in your throat, right? You don't move forwards on the thing that you know will help you become the woman that you want to be and get the goal that you want. Or fawn, where you start people pleasing, you're walking on eggshells, you don't want to ruffle any feathers, you don't want to let anyone down. You might say something, but then you take it back if it's not convenient for the other person, or they even just make a slight facial expression that they don't like what you've said, right? So this is what these women are showing up with to these beautifully intimate, safe, trusting spaces of these coaching calls. And they are getting immediate evidence week after week after week after week of how loved and celebrated they are. They're being called inspiring. They're being thanked for doing the exact thing that their nervous system and subconscious programming has learnt is not okay. Yeah. Which is also the thing that keeps them stuck. Not only are they receiving that immediate evidence and feedback and actually bringing the nervous system and having the assumptions or the greatest fears just obliterated and shattered because it's not the outcome that they see, they're also watching other women do it over and over and over and over again too. So they're getting to take that evidence. They're being exposed neurologically, and their nervous system is being exposed to, oh my God, it's safe. It's safe. It's safe. I'm loved. I'm accepted. I'm celebrated. I'm called inspiring. I'm thanked for being who I am. Right? Plus, they're hearing other women ask questions that they might ask or hadn't thought to ask, and they realize it's so relevant to them as well. So then they're receiving additional coaching to their own one-to-one coaching. Now, I could no longer deny what I was seeing taking place. I could also no longer deny from a soul's purpose perspective that this is my absolute zone of genius. And it doesn't mean I'll never private one-to-one coach, but it did mean that not a lot, but quite a few very big adjustments had to be made in my business, and other decisions around my business and adjustments to my schedule, and where my time, energy, love, and attention was going, so that I could go all in on supporting as many women as possible. It's capped at 30 spaces, but filling as many of those spaces as possible, and then continuing to build it out to be even better than what it is, quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. And so this was one of the things that I have celebrated myself in that felt really difficult. It felt very hard. It felt very unknown. It required me to take risks. It's required me to take steps back at certain stages with income and revenue, so that I can be of more service to more women in a way that, in my mind, body, soul, heart, and in connection with God, universe, consciousness, and all the messages that I was receiving, that I'm actually living in alignment with that. And I'm bringing the most valuable contribution that is available from within me to other women. So that's something I've definitely celebrated myself in too. So to recap these 3 self-celebration questions: what went well? What did I forget to celebrate? And we might add something on there like, can I go and celebrate myself in this? And when did I respond to difficulty by stepping into hard and unknown things? Very, very powerful. And when we practice the sensations and the nervous system experience of celebration in our body, we teach our nervous system to hold more of it as well. Okay. We're going to move on to the last stage of this little workshop session. And I'm going to call this stage data collection. So this is where we're going to collect some data that helps us to understand the results we did and we didn't get, which will help us to increase the likelihood of achieving what it is that we want most in 2025. Yeah. If you knew everything you needed to know about yourself, about your nervous system, about your subconscious, about your soul's purpose, to be able to get the goals that you want most, providing you've had realistic timelines and timeframes around that, yet you don't yet have that as your reality, this data collection is very, very vital, extremely important. It is absolutely how I've moved my own goals forward year after year after year. The first question here, and remember these are questions for your subconscious, not just your intellectual analytical brain. The first question is, what was unexpected? What unexpected things happened this year? yeah, or in 2024. Now, we're talking painful and pleasurable. Yeah, not just painful, not just pleasurable. Uh, the reason for this is it's bringing to the surface things that we maybe have been sweeping under the rug, things that we've maybe been bringing a victim mindset to. Oh, I didn't ask for this. I didn't plan for this. This isn't what I wanted. And we're just spending our time and energy affirming that and talking about how hard it is rather than creating a plan or a strategy around how we can change it. So that's from the painful perspective. It might also bring to the surface more things that you want to validate and celebrate yourself in of like, wow, this was not what I planned at all for this year. And I have done my absolute best. Yeah. This was not what I ordered to be delivered to my doorstep. And I've embraced it. I've gotten curious about how I can help myself whilst I navigate this. I've gotten curious about what are the skills that I need to be able to move through this rather than stay stuck in it. Yeah, so that's part of it. But the other part is the pleasurable stuff, right? I didn't necessarily expect, and this is here comes full circle, the first example I used. I didn't expect that I would not go overseas this year. In fact, quite the opposite. I thought that two minimum, maybe three times. And that was going to be part of my working lifestyle as well, as I was going to not just travel for holidays, but do working holidays, working trips. What I got to see was that whilst that was unexpected, I could feel when I really tuned in amongst the frustration of seeing, I don't think this is going to happen very early on in the year. When I tuned in, I could feel that there was a bigger purpose for that and there was a bigger reason for that. And I didn't know what it was. I could just tell I was meant to stay around home base. That's what life was showing me. I didn't necessarily feel like I wanted it. I didn't necessarily feel, I think that's the best way to say it. I didn't feel like I wanted it. However, it felt like life was giving me these circumstances very intentionally. And I don't believe I would have met Harry, my partner this year, had I of been giving so much of my time, energy, love, and attention to not being around home. I definitely Gecko just came on the roof. I definitely wouldn't have had the time to build a deep connection with him if I wasn't here. So yeah, that felt really important. It also felt like a year of in the astrology calendar, and I don't understand a huge amount this, but about this, but one of my coaches understands a lot about it. And each year, based on our age, there is a theme in astrology that will show up for us to meet more of our karma, more of our life lessons, to do more shedding, to do more clearing, to do more evolving, to do more upleveling. And this year, for my age, was health. And that has definitely felt very prevalent with lots of calls forward to upgrade my physical body. Gut healing, immunity, and all of our health can be tied back to the gut. Immunity is tied back to the gut. And to really get that sorted. And it felt very intentional and also like a very high priority before in the coming years, moving into motherhood and conception, when the health of a child is determined by the health of the parents at conception, a huge part of the health of the child and the physical body of the child. So yeah, that was an example of something that was not expected. I didn't plan it, but was also the health part potentially not entirely pleasurable. But meeting my partner very pleasurable. And so I can now use that as evidence of when unexpected things are happening, what might be the bigger plan? How might God, universe, consciousness actually be conspiring to my greatest freedom, to my greatest fulfillment, to my greatest joy and goals in a way that I can't see because it's not the way that I planned? It's unexpected. What could I be collecting from this experience that will help me move closer and maybe even collapse time and have me arrive at this goal sooner than what I thought I actually would, right? So that's first, what was unexpected. The next data collection question that I want to give you is, where did self-sabotage show up? If you've been here a while, you'll know that I use that word self-sabotage, or that language self-sabotage, because it resonates with women in my audience more so than it resonates with me. The feeling of self-sabotage, we could explain it really as any of the stress responses in the nervous system, the survival stress response that I talked about before, of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn. If you've joined any of my masterclasses this year, you will have seen and been able to take a screenshot of, a beautiful list of examples of how that actually shows up in our behaviors. Procrastination is an example. Not speaking up, hiding and playing small are examples. Keeping the peace are examples. There's so many different examples of what can feel like self-sabotage. Resistance, procrastination, avoidance, not doing the thing that you know you need to do to get to where you want to go. You know better, but you're not doing better. And what the fuck is that about? Seriously. It's as if you know where you want to go, but you're being magnetically drawn away from it, right? That's what it feels like in the body. And the reason it feels like that is because there is fear. And so there is something being signaled from your subconscious, which stores all of your memories. So traumatic events, significant emotional events, formative events that then create limiting beliefs, that have emotions attached to them that are still trapped in the body because you were never taught how to bring emotions up and out of the body and release them so that they don't need to stay stuck, right? And when they stay stuck, they create illness, dis-ease, dysfunction, disharmony, pain, suffering, uncomfortable in the body and in life. And that will just intensify more and more and more and more and more to prompt us to learn what to do with that, right? So when self-sabotage is showing up, it is because something feels unsafe based on a program or a pattern in our subconscious expressing through the nervous system as you're about to die. If you start that business, you're going to die. If you speak up to that family member, that friend, your partner, and share what it is that would actually feel really good to you, or ask for support, or insert here, you're going to die. That's the easiest translation of what is happening in your nervous system. Yeah, I'll be rejected, I'll be left alone forever, and I'll die. We know that's not the literal intellectual analysis of what will happen or what is happening, but it feels so real in the body, so much so that it holds us back from doing the thing that we most of the time already know we need to do, right? Let's take emotional eating. Eat fresh food and vegetables, right? Eat portion sizes that support us to feel energized, to get great sleep, to feel strong, to have great cognitive function. Yeah. We know, right? Like, I was speaking to a client about this the other day who has the meal plans and the affirmations on her kitchen wall and the strategy and the pre-cooking, and yet binge eating. No matter how much she tries to bring front and center the strategy, the plan, the choices, behaviors she knows she needs to choose, the binge eating still shows up. and it was so beautiful. On a call last week or the week before, she came to the call with some data she'd collected from an inner child practice and healing on an event from when she was actually 14 years old. And we walked through it, and she came to the call saying, like, this couldn't be it, could it? Surely this is not it. And when I helped her interpret what her subconscious and inner child was showing her about what felt unsafe and what would need to be healed, she got to see, oh, this is definitely it. Which is so beautiful, so beautiful. And so we're going to explore self-sabotage from that perspective, that something is feeling unsafe, something in the subconscious that we're not intellectually, logically aware of is being triggered by a stimulus outside of ourselves that is similar enough to that past event from childhood that's stored in the subconscious, which is then creating the stress response in the nervous system and saying, don't do it. Yeah. Or in the case of emotional eating, do it. Yeah. In the case of emotional eating, so like doing the emotional eating, do it. Uh, Not doing the emotional eating, don't do it. Just to clarify that. So, as one of the last parts of this session, I want to guide you through a really basic, easy way to connect with your subconscious. So, please do not do this if you are driving or doing anything other than sitting with no responsibilities. And you're able to close your eyes down and really tune into your body. And I'm going to invite you to do that now. So, when you're ready, I just want you to find a comfortable position, ideally seated, ideally with your spine as straight as possible. Completely fine if you want to lean up against something to support your spine. Ideally, nothing touching the back of your head, so your head is free. And I just want you to find the natural rhythm of your breath here as you do. Maybe just beginning to notice how both your belly and your chest can rise with each breath in. And how both your chest and your belly can fall with each breath out. Taking a few more breaths here in your own time, not forcing yourself to lengthen the breath, but naturally doing so as feels good for you and for your body. I'm going to invite you to bring some skin to skin touch if that feels good too. I love the bare hand onto the heart space. So if you're wearing a jumper or a high neck t-shirt, you might just pop your hand underneath your clothing so that you've got that skin to skin touch on your heart space. And you might like to do that with your belly as well, or maybe any other part of your body that is either holding tension so that you can bring more intentional relaxation. Or any part of your body where it would feel comforting, where you would feel connected and attuned to yourself. And just continuing to deepen and soak in those belly breaths. The breath is one of our quickest ways to come back to our true self, down out of the busy, overthinking, fearful mind and into the body. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. Before I do, I'd love you to bring to mind the goal or the outcome that you have wanted to achieve, but felt that fear or self-sabotage got in the way of it. So just taking a moment now to bring that goal or outcome to mind. You can do this with any goal. You don't have to find the perfect one. Just pick what comes to mind. Remember, you can repeat this on the recording. And then I want you to tune into your body, into your heart space, into your solar plexus. And allow yourself to hear the true answers, which is different from telling yourself what the answer is. Listen for the answers and see what you hear, feel, what are you shown. The first question is, what feels unsafe about this? What feels unsafe about me having this? Continue to take a few breaths here and bring patience if you don't get an answer immediately. Not so many of us have been taught or are practiced at connecting with ourselves in this way of asking a question and genuinely seeking to hear the true answer. Welcoming up whatever it is that you hear, even if it does not make complete sense. The subconscious will often speak to us in metaphors, symbols. A few more moments here, leaving space open. Asking the question, what feels unsafe about me moving towards this thing? If you've got pen and paper or a journal there, you're welcome to hit pause and very gently open your eyes and jot down any key words that are important from what you've heard. And then I'm going to guide you through the next answer. So if you're returning to the recording after making some notes, going back inwards by closing down your eyes, bringing back that skin to skin touch and deepening your breath. This next question is, what would need to happen so that my body and nervous system could be fully on board with me achieving this goal? What would need to happen so that I could feel safe to achieve this goal? Again, bringing a lot of patience letting the answers come to you rather than forcing them, rather than demanding them. And surrendering the need to make any intellectual, logical sense of the answers you are receiving. Often our intellect, our conscious mind, takes some time to catch up. Our subconscious is unlimited. Our subconscious is unlimited. And so it has a memory and an imprint of everything we've ever experienced. Which is kind of hard for our intellectual mind to fathom. And it definitely wouldn't cope. Our brain would not cope if it had access to all of that at all times. Can you leave space for the answers to come to you? What would need to happen so that I could feel safe to achieve this goal? Couple more deep breaths here. And then again, if you've got pen and paper and there are some key words or some notes you want to make, please feel free to go ahead and do that now. Maybe pause the recording. Perhaps this is even inspiring an intuitive download, some drop-ins. Perhaps a journaling session is just wanting to stream out of you. Go with it, whatever is coming through. Feel free to hit pause and then come back when you're ready to finish up the last little bit. We're nearly done. But if that is present for you and if that is coming through right now, definitely hit pause and allow yourself to record the answers that you're getting. And then the last question that I want to ask you is, what do you want to repeat or take with you into 2025? Yeah, what do you want to repeat or take with you into 2025? For me, one of the easiest, most basic answers to that, which is not a basic thing at all, is my Vedic meditation practice. That is something for well over a year now. I've done 2 20-minute meditations each day, and I just gain so much from it. And the first trip that I have planned for 2025 is actually to India on a pilgrimage where for 15 days and nights, I'll be in temples, visiting lots of sacred places, staying in an ashram for the last 5 nights, which I'm super, super excited about. So yeah, it's these answers are going to be a combination of basic, easy, clear, obvious things, and there might be some bigger pieces that are really important too. All right, my love, I hope this has been useful. We're going to wrap this up here. Next week, I'm going to take you through part 2, which will help you to connect in and actually formulate and set the goals or the vision that you have in a way that is very true and honest to you for 2025. So I'll see you there for that. Big love.
Thank you for being here for this conversation, my love. If you would like more free resources, if you'd like to learn about my programs or coaching opportunities, you can find all of that information at my website, gemmahanley.com. I'll link it below in the show notes. And if you would like to connect daily, head over and find me on Instagram. My handle there is Gemma E. Hanley, and I reply to all of my DMs there personally. If you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please share it with someone. You never know who needs to hear one little thing to take their day from feeling stuck and heavy to light and free. See you on the next one.